Hello everybody, this is Jason Hires. This is another edition of Jason's Playlist. This playlist is inspired by this book right here. It's called Been So Long. It's a biography of Jorma Kaukonen. Jorma Kaukonen is the lead guitar player for the Jefferson Airplane. He also was the lead guitar player and principal songwriter for Hot Tuna. And he also does have several solo albums as well. He is considered to be one of the all-time masters of fingerstyle guitar. However, my influence with Jorma has a lot to do with his work with Jefferson Airplane, particularly with him playing what I would call lead accompaniment. So in a lot of songs, he would be playing a lead like a guitar solo throughout the whole song, and it would be kind of like a textural guitar solo. And I use that technique a lot in my own recordings, and because I was in a band that had a female singer, we covered a lot of Jefferson Airplane songs. So one of the very first guitar players that I learned a lot and learned how to copy was Jorma Kaukonen. Now, the book even has an autograph, even though it's not very clear, but it is autographed, which is pretty cool as well. And so anyway, but this playlist is inspired by Jefferson Airplane. Jefferson Airplane is a band that I am a very big advocate for, and it is one of the bands that most people don't know as much about as they should, because they only really know the big two songs and that's it. But the Airplane is a great band, and I'm going to introduce you to some songs that you may not know of. I'm going to leave you links to the songs, and I will have a list of the songs at the beginning of this video. You probably have already seen it. So I'm going to talk about these songs. I'm going to talk about why I like the songs, and we'll kind of go from there. I've decided arbitrarily, or for time purposes, even though I know this video is going to be long anyway, that I'm going to keep these lists to just 12 songs from now on, and so that's the way it's going to be. So track one is the Ballad of You and Me and Pooh Neal, and this is the first track after Bathing at Baxter's. It starts off with a roar of feedback. It has A. Milne Poetry, which is where the Pooh part comes in because it's Winnie the Pooh. And then the Neal part is Fred Neal, who was a really big influence on Paul Kantner. And Jefferson Airplane covered a Fred Neal song called The Other Side of This Life throughout their whole career. And Fred Neal is an interesting folk artist in his own right. He has some interesting albums as well. I can't think of what the one album that I do have is right off the top of my head, but it is a decent album. We Can Be Together is track 2, and this is kind of like a call to arms. This is to the point where Airplane started to get a little bit more political, at least the Paul Kantner, Grace Slick side of things. And this is a great song. You know, it's a call to arms. It's a fun song, but it is kind of shows the beginning where the band started to polarize, and they started to pull into two different directions. A Crown of Creation, this is a classic Paul Kantner song, has really cool guitar leads by Jorma, great vocals. The line, life has changed, how it differs from the rocks, which should be kind of a weird line, and it kind of is, but it really works in the song. And some great bass playing by Jack Casady, too. Jack Casady is a fantastic bass player. I'll talk more about him in a minute. Next song is Martha. Martha is, I guess the story behind Martha is that Martha is Martha Wax, who was the daughter of the mayor of San Francisco at the time. And I guess she was like 13 years old, and she would frequently run away from home, and they would find her in their 2400 Fulton Street address, just there hanging out, you know. It's the 60s, what can I say? The next song is Feel So Good. Feel So Good is a Hot Tuna song, which is one of the sub-projects that broke off. That just happens to end up on an Airplane record. This was recorded towards the end of Airplane's career. This was like the second to last Airplane album. And in some ways, Bark, the album that this comes off, was really the last true Airplane record. There's a live record, and then there's the last studio record, which is called Long John Silver. But they don't really hold up with the rest of the catalog, to be honest with you. But Feel So Good is a great song. It's Jorma Kaukonen at his best. Great guitars, fun lyrics. Just a really good musical breakdown. Greasy Heart is a Grace Slick song. Grace Slick is actually a really good songwriter besides just being a really good vocalist. Once again, she's only really known for White Rabbit, but she wrote a lot of really interesting songs, and she's definitely, worth paying attention to besides just for that. This is a great song, super cool lead accompanied by Jorma. Once again, some really cool bass playing by Jack Casady, really fluid bass playing. Alright, and now we have Wooden Ships. Now, you may know Wooden Ships because Crosby, Stills, and Nash recorded a version of it. The song was actually written by David Crosby and Stephen Stills with Paul Kantner. And Paul Kantner, which is one of the main songwriters for Airplane, obviously. Paul Kantner, and they did a version of this song as well for the Airplane. But if you listen to the two versions, the Airplane version is much more epic. It's just a big, grandiose, almost cinematic kind of song. So if you've heard Wooden Ships and you like Wooden Ships, listen to the Airplane version, because the Airplane version is phenomenal. Alright, the big one. Let's talk about the big one. And this is White Rabbit. Of course, this is the most well-known Airplane song, and for good reason. It has great lyrics, great vocals. It's a continuous crescendo throughout the whole piece, so it gradually gets louder and louder as they record it. And it's a world-class vocal performance. It is a classic song for a reason, and it deserves recognition. However, it's not the only Airplane song by any stretch of the imagination. The next of the big two of the Airplane songs is Somebody to Love. Now, this version, though, the version that I'm going to link to is a live version that they recorded for an album called Bless Its Pointy Little Head. And in Bless Its Pointy Little Head, when they recorded this live, they really pushed the Jack Casady bass in the forefront of the mix, and it's like a great engine that just drives everything. The other thing that's really great about this particular version of Somebody to Love is you have Marty Balin singing as well, and you're having this almost like competing where Marty's trying to steal the song away from Grace, and it's just a really powerful live performance. Jefferson Airplane was a truly great live band. Excuse me. So, Bless Its Pointy Little Head is definitely one of the few live albums that I always strongly recommend, because it's just a really masterwork. Volunteers is the last track of the Volunteers album, and once again, it's kind of a call to arms. I believe Nicky Hopkins is playing piano on the track. Paul Kantner was a true believer in the hippie movement, and he really thought that, that people would rise up, change the world, make everybody happy, and, we'd all live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but if Paul's vision of the world had come to pass, I think the world would be a happier place than it is now. Alright, now we're getting close to the end here. We have Won't You Try Saturday Afternoon is the second to last track. Now, there was a ritual that happened in the 60s where they would do free concerts in the park. And this is about doing free concerts in the park. It's kind of a thing that they used to do. And this features the strong things that Airplane always have, which is great collective vocals. You have great vocal harmonies. You have Jack Casady and Jorma doing their thing. I should also mention Spencer Dryden, who was the drummer for the main incarnation of the band. He didn't play out throughout the whole life of the Airplane, but the main albums, Spencer Dryden was the drummer, and he also was a fantastic drummer. And then finally, we get to the last track, which is The House at Punil Corners. Now, I like bookends for playlists, and this song was designed to be a bookend. So this is the end of the. Even though Ballad of You and Me, Punil is on After Bathing at Baxter's, and this song is off of Crown of Creation, which these two albums followed each other. They really are meant to be bookend songs. And so this has some great post-apocalyptic lyrics like the seas will wash off the ashes of violence left as the memory of men. There will be no survivors, my friend. I mean, it's a powerful song. It has a lot to say. And it just makes for a good bookend. Now, once again, these aren't necessarily the all-time best Airplane songs, even though obviously there are some of the all-time best Airplane songs on this list. But it's a good place to start. I will give you links to all these songs in the section below, and so you'll have a link to all these songs. And I hope you enjoy my list. Let me know if there's any songs that I should have included or any songs that you really like from the Airplane. And thank you guys, and have a great day, okay? Bye.